Daredevil's helmet appeared in She-Hulk just a couple of weeks ago, and Marvel fans couldn't wait for some DD action to begin. However, we had no idea what really was in store for us. As soon as Matt Murdock made his way into the show, we don't know about the DD action, but there was plenty of D action. Today, we look at the new, widely welcome horny direction MCU is taking with the show. First off, Jen and Matt have mad chemistry. Episode 8 has definitely been a memorable one, featuring some incredibly steamy scenes between Jen and Matt Murdock. At one point, the actress actually breaks the fourth wall and asks, "We're all feeling this, right?" Wondering if the audience can feel the heat between her and Daredevil. And it's safe to say that no one in the MCU has ever come close. What adds to the whole thing is the fact that both the actors, Tatiana and Charlie, are effortlessly adorable with their little arguments and jibes at each other, even when they get physical in the She-Hulk type of way later on. But there's more to it than just physical appeal. Jen and Matt also have a lot of respect for each other. When Daredevil helps She-Hulk out with some important lessons in learning how to maintain balance in life, there's a true emotional connection between them, which is extremely rare to come across in the MCU. Not to mention that they're both insanely attractive. After a typical fight in the corridor, Matt and Jen find themselves on a rooftop alongside each other. This is where we saw the beginnings of something warm, truly sprouting between them. The fight had been successful and justice had been served, so what was coming up next? We're sure they both knew the direction that their partnership was about to take. After all, why else would they stick around each other till the end of the day? Up next, their sexual desires can be clearly seen in the Marvel comics. Fans may already be aware that Matt and Jen are among Marvel's horniest characters. Their small black books are much longer than the Eternals. They're also far more sexual on film than your typical MCU characters, which may be one of Marvel's smartest choices lately. After all, none of us could say no to a steamy crossover between these two superheroes. Jen is busy making love to bad guys like Josh, as Cap is kissing Peggy on the cheek, simultaneously winking at Bucky on the side. Matt, on the other hand, free of Disney's limitations at Netflix, was simply fueled by flames in his hyper drive for either Karen or Elektra. His preferences just shifted according to the season. Daredevil appears to have brought some of those grown-up intents with him when he moved from Netflix to Disney. However, ultimately, it's She-Hulk who makes the first move. When Matt proposes taking her on a date when he returns to town, Jen responds by saying that they can just avoid all that. After all, we see them skip it in actuality as we crash directly to She-Hulk's house. They both burst right through the door in the middle of a makeout session. As they move to the bedroom, Daredevil's carefully made new suit is thrown away without a care. And if we may say so, this has to be one of the steamiest scenes we've ever seen in the MCU. Moving on, how much of the action do we get to see? We don't get to see the act itself, which is understandable given that we're watching Marvel. But that last glance as the door shuts will help support a lot of fetish websites on the internet. Surprisingly, She-Hulk and Daredevil haven't ever met in this way in the comics, but considering their chemistry in the show, that really is something that needs to be corrected. Even without revealing anything specific, Matt and Jen's connection is sizzling hot in ways that no other character in the MCU can equal. When we watch Daredevil wake up in the morning, walking all smug, we really get to see a human side to the two characters. Jen describes their on-screen time together as having a satisfying ending, and we think we all feel the same way. However, before we go on to signing petitions for an entire show based on the two, we have to understand how big of a deal this is. We're talking about the MCU, where the characters usually don't move in such bold directions, and their personal lives are usually secondary to the film's plot. We know that there's a lot of romance going on here and there, but we rarely get to see an indication of actual This is what the She-Hulk and Daredevil combo brought to us, and we're really not complaining. Now, moving on to whether the fans like the She-Hulk scene. First off, Daredevil fans are pretty furious. Many of the fans have felt betrayed by the latest episode of She-Hulk showing Jen and Matt having Many of them have been waiting for Cox's return to his character for a very long time. Because Daredevil got cancelled in 2018, this wait was even more intensified. When he did finally return to the screen, he was shown teaming up with Jen's She-Hulk. MCU probably tried to switch things up by bringing a character from Disney Plus to Marvel, but it was a huge leap of faith. Daredevil fans have been used to the PG version of Daredevil, which is why the jump to Marvel felt so grand. One of the fans raised the point of how they can't ever imagine Daredevil having such loose morals when it comes to They admit that he takes everything with a very light heart and isn't very serious, but many fans don't see that translating into him doing it with anyone and everyone. Another fan talked about how that scene entirely changed the way Daredevil will be perceived from now onwards. It took a really long time for the character to build over the 3 seasons of Daredevil, and we can't negate the work Cox had to put into it as well. For many fans, his reputation as a character has been destroyed entirely because of the scene. Moving on, Daredevil's behavior may have contradicted his Catholic roots. Many fans fans are ready to admit that his comeback as well as his treatment was done very well in the show, but the sudden R-rated change feels unwelcome by many people. In the past, Daredevil had Catholic roots, which is why having randomly would not be justified for his character. There were many She-Hulk fans who defended the decision, but most of the Daredevil fans failed to see the necessity of this event. Their partnership could be portrayed in the shape of them being friends with each other, forming a team that didn't rely on a romantic relationship. Many fans also felt that Jen and Matt's union felt forced. This is not just because of how suddenly and without warning the scene itself came, but also because how the characters never had any history before Daredevil's last-minute appearance in the show. If there had to be an element of romance in the show, for many fans, it should have taken longer to brew. They should have probably let their friendship grow a bit more before they jumped right into bed with each other. Up next, many fans have taken a sarcastic approach. To mock all the fans who've been triggered by the inclusion of the scenes, many others emerged. One fan talked about how because Daredevil has had now, he is suddenly not relatable anymore. The fan ironically spoke about how Daredevil was one of his favorite characters and how, now that he has had he has suddenly changed, poking fun at all the criticism. Many fans thought that the scene was just a short sequence of barely a few minutes, with no details whatsoever. In today's age, this really shouldn't be that big of a deal. Many fans also pointed out how Daredevil hasn't had an entirely innocent past. He has had before, both on screen and in the comics. The scenes may not have been as explicit as it was in She-Hulk, but the implication always existed. In the second season of Daredevil, Matt got super close to Elektra, which was pretty undeniably sexual. A relationship between him and Black Widow was also shown in the comic books, helping us understand Daredevil's character in greater depth. Finally, the characters of the show felt the importance of the scene. While talking to The Wrap, director Kat Coiro explained how portraying a woman in her 30s as a superhero and someone who has had an active life was a brave decision on the showrunner's part. They also knew the controversy that surrounds middle-aged women and their sexualities in the media. In a way, the scene wasn't about Daredevil at all. What they really wanted to show was a scene through the female lens, something that remains underrepresented even in the MCU. By taking this tremendous leap of faith, Marvel wanted to move on to a more progressive path. Regardless, many of the fans felt the scene took away from the essence of Daredevil, which is where the clash of opinions truly lies. And that's a wrap, folks. What do you think about the She-Hulk and Daredevil scene? Tell us in the comments below. And as always, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more interesting updates on She-Hulk. See you in the next video.